Hi guys, this is Max Headspace 9mm, and you know there's two kinds of people in the gun world. There's people who know that CZ firearms are awesome, and there's people who haven't yet learned that. This is one of my favorite guns that I own. The CZ75B Omega. And this is actually a Seracote finish on here. I'm going to go over some of the features of this gun because a lot of people don't realize this thing exists, but it's one of the best CZ firearms you can get from an all-around sense in pistols. If you like hammer guns, and who doesn't? I mean, they're great. Not necessarily the very best for concealed carry, but for pretty much shooting and everything else, CZ has earned a reputation as one of the most well-built, well-designed, and most accurate handgun manufacturers on planet Earth. And besides that, the prices are very reasonable. So this one, you can get these set up with two different kinds of safeties. This one has a hammer drop safety. You can safely drop the hammer here. I don't really like regular thumb safeties. I find the hammer drop option much better. More usable anyway. And it has a standard capacity magazine of 19 rounds. 19 rounds. So, you know, it's high capacity. It's incredibly accurate. It has a threaded barrel. And let's just put a suppressor on here so you can see what that looks like. 1/2 by 28 threads, so you get your standard 9mm suppressor on here. It does make for a very long gun, but when you get yourself some 147 grain, this is really quite quiet. It's impressive how quiet you can shoot this. You don't have to be too far away from your neighbors out in the country, and they don't even hear it at all. They don't even know you're doing anything other than maybe chopping wood. So if you have some country property outside of the city and you like to do a little target shooting in your back 4 or 5 acres, but your neighbors are sound sensitive, this could be the answer for you. It is a very quiet setup. So this is my 45 Tyrant. It will shoot, it'll basically work for 45, 40, and 9mm. And I love this gun because it comes set up perfectly for suppressor use. And it works beautifully for that. It has high-rise sights, and not only that, but they are night sights. Very nice gun. And I'll tell you something, the ergonomics are so good. This is basically the John Browning high-power design. CZ's iteration of it. And I think they pulled it off very well. So when you wrap your hand around this grip, it feels so good. I think this is way more comfortable than a 1911 any day of the week. It's just got a little bit more curve where it needs curve. It has a little shelf right here on top of the side panel where your thumb can rest, which is really nice. As I mentioned before, it has a Seracote finish. Now this is kind of an unusual Seracote color. It's not flat dark earth. It's not coyote tan. It's not snow white. It's something, I think, if I remember right, they call it something like urban concrete or something like that. But it is. It's basically the color of concrete. So it's camo for the city. And it's pretty cool and distinctive looking, and this finish is really rugged. I haven't babied this gun at all. I've had gun oil on here, and of course when you shoot with suppressors, of course, you get a lot more blowback. So this gun's been filthy, and it just cleans up so nice every time. Now, you would think a gun like this would be really heavy. It looks like one of those heavy guns that they used to use back in the 70s before Glock kind of changed everything. But honestly, I think this frame must be aluminum because it's a very lightweight gun for what it is. Fits the hand, and I will tell you something. I've got a few thousand rounds through this gun, and it has not failed me one single time. Not that was the fault of the gun. I shoot some pretty cheap ammo through this. I shoot 115 grain, I shoot Remington, UMC, I shoot Winchester, I shoot Herters. You know, pretty much the cheapest brass case ammo I can find. And this has handled it brilliantly. I've had a few issues with some of the rounds failing due to manufacturing flaws. And I was able to pinpoint that that's what it was, like a dead primer or something like that. When I get a dud, I check it. I look it over real carefully. And I check to see if the primer has a good sized dimple on it. And if it does, and it still didn't go off, I don't blame the gun for that. But that is extremely rare, and I don't even remember it ever happening on this gun. I might get one dud out of, I don't know, 1,000 rounds fired maybe. So, you know, it's a great gun. It's a really great gun. So if you're thinking about something like this, not inside the waistband necessarily, I wouldn't recommend that for concealed carry, but if you want a holster gun outside the waistband, man, you can't do any better than this. 9mm Browning, high power beauty. It is just lived up to its reputation so nicely. It drops free. Doesn't have a flared mag well, but I've never had a problem. And man, this thing will take you anywhere you want to go and exceed your wildest dreams as far as performance is concerned. It has been probably my favorite hammer-fired pistol that I own. I have guns that cost twice as much as this, but they're not any better. And I'll tell you something, the price is one of the best things about these. You know, I think I picked this up brand new for like $600 or $650. With all these features, I just can't believe CZ can do that. But they do. And man, I'm glad they do because I love this gun. So let's check trigger pull. I don't have a magazine in here, so don't anybody freak out. This doesn't have one of those stupid magazine safeties that I hate so much. I don't think I'd own a gun that had that no matter how good it was. But let's look at the trigger, okay? So this has a double action trigger that pulls the hammer. It's about a 12-pound long, creepy trigger. And the reset is beautiful. Very short, very crisp, and very buttery smooth. So when this cycles, you get about a 3-pound trigger, which is very, very nice. And it's probably about as smooth as a nice 1911 trigger, though it's a sweeping trigger instead of a forward and backward kind of trigger like the 1911. But I like it a lot. This is a very good trigger. It has very little play, and when you hit this resistance right here, it starts to move the hammer back, and that's where you get all your resistance. And then you get a nice crisp break. Every bit of your reset is just buttery smooth and light, and you get a very clear click. Being that this is a metal trigger shoe, it is easy for that to transmit down to your finger. And then you come back again. Yeah, 3.5 pounds maximum. Very light, very nice. Now, if you happen to not want to shoot, say you have a round in here and you want to carry safely, you can drop the hammer on a round safely. Obviously point it in a safe direction when you do that. I would always make a practice of doing that. But the hammer has a little gap in there. It's a drop safety hammer. This will not make contact with the firing pin no matter what you do, even if you drop it right on that hammer. That is a drop safe hammer. And then if you want to cock it, you can do that. Or you can just drop it, carry it like this, and then your first trigger pull is going to be that heavy 12-pound with a long pull. But everyone after that is going to be a quick, light pull. This is what I would say is an ultimate combat pistol for people who like the old school. I love shooting this. It's fantastic. Now let's shoot it a little bit with a suppressor on it. I've got my Tyrant 45 Auto from Advanced Armament Corporation. And with the right piston, it fits right on here. I've got a set for 45 and 9mm. I don't have any 40s with a threaded barrel. Probably never will. And these are 147 grain Winchester. So I don't have any ear protection at all. And from experience, I know that I don't need it. That's pretty quiet. I don't know if that comes through in the camera, but very hearing safe, very easy. All right, what else can be said about this? My favorite double action, single action. Well, I think we can do a little bit of a field strip here if you're interested. Check to make sure it's empty. Helps to get this thread protector off of here for when we want to remove the barrel. And of course, it always helps to have the hammer back. The hammer creates a lot of resistance against the slide moving. Now, there is a line in the slide and a line down here in the frame. You want those to line up just like that. And then you want to push this button out from over on this side with these lines lined up. And sometimes that's not very easy. Sometimes you need something hard like the magazine because your finger just isn't hard enough to make that happen. And it causes the takedown lever to pop out just enough so that you can get a hold of it and pull it out. That's it right there. Now once this is off, there is nothing to keep you from removing this. You pull the hammer back and that moves the trigger bar so that this will slide right off. Now I shoot this a lot and I shoot it suppressed a lot. So inside, you know, it gets kind of dirty. This thing has been so fouled up from carbon and unburnt powder, and it just cleans up okay. It's not the simplest inside, but it's not that hard. And inside you will be impressed by all the beautiful machining, the fit and the finish. Your guide rod pops out. It is not a captive guide rod. This is old school. This is the way they used to make them. And your barrel is a thing of beauty. Look at this. This is a beautiful barrel. CZ makes great barrels, and you can tell it is the Browning style of lockup. You have this cam here that basically, when this is all together, your takedown pin goes through this here, and that's what allows this to drop and move just slightly as the action happens. But that's all there is to it. It's really not difficult to field strip this gun and put it back together again. It's really pretty simple. Nothing to be intimidated by, that's for sure. Non-captive guide rods are not the end of the world. See, they go in just that simple. That's not really that hard. You know, the rails are really nice. Full length rails, full length. Full length rails, metal rails, full length, not stamped sheet metal, but milled and machined the full length of both of these parts. And they put them down low. So look at the overlap there. This is protected. So when you oil this, it's not very likely to get dust and sand and dirt into it. Some guns like Glocks, the tolerances are so loose, in fact you can see daylight through here. And so the principle with a Glock is just like an AK-47, you make them sloppy and loose so that any dust and dirt can work its way out if it gets in there. With this, it's more like an AR-15 in that it is so tight that the dust and the dirt isn't likely to get in there from the beginning. And then you, of course, you pull this back, you line these up again, and your job now is to get this back into place. Sometimes you tap on the barrel just to make sure that it's all the way back, and then it drops in easy. If you find yourself having a hard time getting this key in there, you know, no matter how hard you push, it won't go, tap the barrel back, and then it'll drop right down. And then snap it into place, and it's done. And you can go ahead and screw on your thread protector, and you're in business, ready to go. So that really wasn't that hard. You know, generally speaking, if I have a choice, I rather don't like little parts that can be lost when I'm field stripping. But you know, this is a great design, and I can put up with a few things like that. And oh, one thing I wanted to tell you about. Now, when I bought this gun, it came with a nice plastic case, 2 magazines, a few other things like instruction manual and cleaning brush and things like that. But one thing that is really cool about this gun, if I remember correctly, because I've had this, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, this gun is one of the very few I've ever seen like this that gives you the option of safeties. You can have a traditional thumb safety, which you have to switch in order to fire it, and it has the red dot right there. And just like a key, you can pop the safety out. It's basically this lever with a cam inside of the mechanism. And you can remove it and put in this hammer drop safety. So you have a choice of 2 different safety options with this gun, and it's something that you can do yourself quite easily. And I chose the hammer drop safety because it's more useful for me. I really don't like manual safeties on a gun. I think they're kind of pointless. But that's just me. Maybe you like the manual safety and you'd prefer that option. So that gives you both options. And I think that's fantastic. It does not have ambidextrous everything. It has ambidextrous safety, but that's about it. So if you're a righty, that's perfect for you. If you're a lefty, maybe you're just going to have to learn to shoot righty. But it's a fantastic gun, and it's really not that hard to field strip at all. And the night sights are very, very strong. Very, very good. I've had this about 6 years now, and they seem to be just as bright as the day they were brand new. Czechoslovakia makes some very, very nice guns. Thanks for watching. This is Max Headspace 9mm. Have a good one.